May 14, 1916. Rubio, Chihuahua, Mexico. A young American officer crouches behind the corner of an adobe ranch house. His ivory-handled Colt 45 is empty. Three armed horsemen charge straight at him at full gallop, rifles blazing. He pulls the trigger. Click. Nothing. As he desperately tries to reload, 3 bullets snap past his head, so close he can feel the air move. Those ivory-handled revolvers everyone remembers? They weren't for show. They were insurance for the moment when your primary weapon runs dry, and the fight is still very much on. To understand how George S. Patton ended up in a Mexican gunfight at just 30 years old, you need to know 3 things. First, in March 1916, revolutionary leader Pancho Villa crossed into New Mexico with 500 men and attacked the town of Columbus. 18 Americans were killed. It was the first foreign invasion of USS soil since 1812. President Woodrow Wilson was furious. Second, Wilson ordered General John J. Pershing to lead 10,000 troops into Mexico to capture or kill Villa. This mission became known as the Punitive Expedition. It was also America's first major military operation using motor vehicles and aircraft. Mexico became a testing ground for modern warfare. Third, and most important, Patton wasn't supposed to be there. His cavalry unit wasn't selected. But Patton wanted combat experience more than anything, so one night he showed up at Pershing's quarters and essentially begged for a role, any role. When Pershing asked why, Patton answered honestly, "Because I want to go more than anyone else." Pershing was impressed. He made Patton his personal aide. George S. Patton Jr. was full of contradictions. Born into wealth in 1885, he came from a family with deep military roots. War stories filled his childhood dinner table. But Patton struggled badly with dyslexia, long before anyone understood it. He failed math at West Point and had to repeat a year. Yet this same man later became a master tactician who could calculate battlefield geometry in his head. He was insecure about his intelligence, but supremely confident in his destiny. By 1916, Patton had already lived an extraordinary life. He competed in the 1912 Olympics, designed a new cavalry saber for the U.S. Army, and practiced pistol shooting for hours every day with both hands. He genuinely believed he had fought in past lives as a Roman soldier and medieval knight. Confidence wasn't an act for Patton. It was a belief. By May 1916, the punitive expedition was struggling. Villa had vanished into the mountains. Public support was fading. Then came intelligence. Captain Julio Cardenas, Villa's second-in-command, might be nearby. Patton wanted this mission badly. On May 14th, Pershing sent him on what seemed like a routine task: take 3 Dodge touring cars, 10 men, and buy corn for cavalry horses. Logistics, not combat. But Patton saw opportunity. He noticed suspicious men near the ranches. One of his guides recognized them as former Villistas. Patton made a decision against orders. They would return to San Miguelito Ranch and search it aggressively. If he was wrong, his career was finished. If he was right, everything could change. The cars raced toward the ranch at nearly 40 miles per hour. Patton's vehicle skidded to a stop near the main gate. He jumped out, revolver drawn. For a brief moment the courtyard was silent, then shouting. 3 horsemen burst through the gate at full speed, armed and firing. The lead rider charged directly at Patton. At 20 yards, Patton fired his first combat shot. The bullet shattered the rider's arm. Another shot dropped the horse. The other 2 riders thundered past, firing wildly. Patton ducked behind cover to reload. That's when it happened. 3 bullets cracked past his head while his gun was empty. Any one of them could have killed him. He later said, "I had to stop and reload my 6-shooter. While I did, 3 shots just missed my head." That moment burned into his memory. Patton reloaded, rejoined the fight, and within minutes it was over. 3 Villistas were dead. One of them was Captain Julio Cardenas. Patton ordered the bodies strapped to the hoods of the Dodge cars and drove straight back to headquarters at full speed. 3 cars, 3 bodies, flying through the desert. By the time they arrived, reporters were waiting. The headlines exploded. Young American officer, motorized raid. Villa's second-in-command dead. Patton became famous overnight. He carved 3 notches into the ivory grip of his revolver, one for each man, part warrior, part showman, always aware of his image. But the most important consequence happened privately. Patton never forgot those seconds with an empty weapon. From that day forward he made a rule: never rely on a single point of failure. Years later he carried 2 revolvers, a Colt 45 and a Smith & Wesson 35-7 Magnum. They became his trademark. But the lesson went far beyond guns. In World War II, Patton planned everything with redundancy, multiple supply routes, backup plans, fallback positions. The man who once ran out of bullets made sure his armies never did. Patton's story isn't really about ivory-handled revolvers, it's about preparation, about having a second option when the first one fails. In life, just like in battle, the people who keep moving forward are the ones who don't freeze when their first plan runs dry. Because sometimes, the most important weapon isn't the one you fire first, it's the one you still have when everything else fails.